All right, everybody, on this week's episode of Top 5, we're doing our favorite Black Sabbath songs without Ozzy Osbourne. Wait a second. I hate Sabbath. I'm not doing this damn episode. I'm getting the hell out of here. Ernie, take it away.
Welcome to Top 5 with Joey Cassata. Starring Joey Cassata.
Team Jesus, my friend.
Am I walking around park?
Co-starring Ernie Palooza. And the Doctor, Tommy Snyder.
Goddamn.
Now here's your host, Joey Cassata.
Top 5 without Joey Cassata while he's on tour. Fuck him. What's going on, buddy? What are we doing today? Why are we here?
Working on top 5 Sabbath songs, but no Ozzy songs allowed.
Yeah, I think that's a tough. That's tough. I mean, I was actually thinking about it when you were talking about doing something like this, and I'm trying to come up with these type of songs. You got a lot of people, I think, that know Black Sabbath. They're all pretty much purists, and a lot of them kind of like said, screw these guys after Ozzy left, kicked out, whatever the story is.
Hey, I'm so glad you brought that up, because for years I wouldn't listen to Sabbath without Ozzy. It was considered disrespectful somehow to Ozzy.
I don't disagree. I'm more of a purist. I was kind of like, you do have bands that are out there that have been influential in the music business that, when you lose a key member, regardless of, like for argument's sake, if Tony Iomie's writing most of the music and creating the Black Sabbath dark sound, you lose like a key vocal sign or like a musician, people tend to shy away from it. I mean, I can think of probably 3 bands right now that lost singers that I thought put out some really great music. One, Judas Priest. I think stuff that was on Jugulator was fantastic with Tim Ripper Owens. I think some of the stuff that Anthrax did after Joey Belladonna left, I thought was killer stuff on Sound the White Noise. And I mean, people love them or hate them. Iron Maiden. I mean, you got 3 bands that had, that had a key sound, and then just, and took that sound to another level. I believe that from a musician standpoint, if you still have ideas, why not continue to do it? Why stop? So this was kind of tough because I think there's some killer music out there that Black Sabbath put together without Ozzy, and I think it's great. And it kind of took the band into a different direction, and fuck it, let's kick it in.
No, I can think of 2 other groups, maybe not as big as the bands you mentioned, that lost their singers and kept going. AC/DC and Van Halen.
Another perfect example, the purist out there. David Lee Roth left, and everybody thinks that anything past that is complete garbage. I think some of Van Halen's greatest music was with Sammy Hagar. Again, it's all about a preference and what you think, what people think. I mean, same AC/DC, another perfect example. But picture bands during that era that at that time left, moved on, and then had a different singer. And what would they sound like today? Queen. Could you imagine Queen? We've heard Queen without Freddie Mercury, and we know how that sounds. But think about it. Queen is a perfect example. It's an iconic staple. He's a major songwriter. Bands like that just can't go on without certain key members of a band. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, in this particular scenario, Ozzy's written some killer stuff during this era as Black Sabbath became as iconic as they did and as influential in this industry. and it's hard. People just don't like change. So,
whatchamacall, what we were just talking about was the whole disrespectful to Ozzy thing. I just to throw a conspiracy out that I just thought of, because I didn't make this up. I got this from the older kids in my neighborhood that you couldn't listen to Sabbath without Ozzy. What if this was a Sharon Osbourne trick of some sort? I mean, would you put it past her?
No, I wouldn't. But if you think about it, when you're looking at a lot of these bands that had key, like you said, key musicians in that band, look what it brought to the musical. Look what it brought to music. Because, like I said, take away singers for a second. Take away iconic bands like Metallica. Back when they started. Dave Mustaine to this day is always arguing about. Not being a part of their success, but look what he brought to music and other things that people, if it wasn't for Metallica kicking out Dave Mustaine, we would not have had Megadeth. We wouldn't have had great music that came from these bands. Same thing with Kiss, Joey would love that. You get these musicians that, look, Ace Frehley left, you know what I'm saying? Ace Frehley wrote some really great music. Maybe the popularity wasn't there, but there was some real great music, and we wouldn't have had it. That's what you got to think about. People don't seem to understand that you can't be closed-minded when it comes to this. Hold on, I just got to keep putting my notes up because this is hard. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I looked at it that way. I mean, even like I said, Priest with Rob Halford leaving, Judas Priest kicked out, whatever. He wrote some good killer stuff when Fight came out. I thought there was some good stuff. Wasn't as popular as Judas Priest. People look at Rob Halford and you say, Judas Priest. Well, you know what? He wrote, he helped contribute and write some good music, and we wouldn't have had that if things like this don't happen. Bands evolve, musicians evolve, I mean, it goes the same thing. Playground, look how that evolved. I think the only one that made it was Joey. Well, he's on tour and we're doing this.
Will Playground ever get a new singer? Or
I look at it too, so like you said, sometimes.
Or any singer?
Well, poor Snyder. I wish we'd done this more at night so I wouldn't be just drinking coffee. Yeah, but no. But you know what? Sometimes a band has a chemistry, and sometimes the chemistry is gone when you lose a particular musician. You know what I'm saying? So it's like Playground. You got Tommy that he to me is Playground. His vocal style, his writing capabilities, and what we did back in those days. I don't think it wouldn't have been the same. Bands won't be the same. The longevity wouldn't have been there and stuff like that. I mean, when I was there and I was not in the band moved on. I was a piece of the puzzle, but I couldn't do Playground without Joey. I couldn't do Playground without Steve. I couldn't really do it without Brendan. But if he wouldn't be able to do this, because he's further away from us. I think we could still, put something together. But I would, you always want to see the bands be where it was in its purest form. I mean, Led Zeppelin. Could you imagine Led Zeppelin with another singer? I mean, come on. But Robert Plant wrote some good stuff. I mean, Jimmy Page compiled stuff with David Coverdale and I thought, some real good music out there, which you would not have had. God rest, what do you call it, soul. But, sometimes bands have to say, you know what, without all of us together as a unit, how could you even do this? So it's difficult, so I look at it this way. I'm actually kind of excited to see Joey playing again with ZO2 and Mark Mendoza filling in. I think that's great. It's killer. But then again, I'm a purist, when it comes to that band. To me, ZO2 was always, the Z Brothers and Joey.
I don't know if Tommy remembers this. It just hit me even before Playground was put together. When Tommy was talking about making a band, he told me his imagination was Van Halen if Billy Joel joined as a singer of the band.
but see, that's what I'm trying to say. The when you take when you took the old band, I mean, the old band we had so many different influences, and we put it together and put something together that I thought personally was unique. I think it could have had longevity if we pushed it a little bit further, but unfortunately, things happen for a reason. Like my mother always says, things happen for a reason, and and people moved on and did other things. Maybe not music. Steve went out and was working for a while and put together this acoustic type thing, which I've never seen his talent that way. I never knew he knew how to sing. I mean, he's got a great voice, and he could still write music. Joey, Joey's Joey. I mean, his mentality and attitude, in this industry, he never gave it up, didn't care what it was, kept doing it, perfected himself. And to me, I still think he's probably one of the best drummers in the business, and I'm not just saying it because I played with him and I personally know him. He's just that good. I mean, I can compare him to a Portnoy, you know what I'm saying, or a Neil Peart. There's nothing he can't do. And that's why he's still playing today, endorsed and doing these videos.
I'm going to give you that because you're a musician. I'm not a musician, so I really don't hear what a musician hears.
No, and like I said, I thought, like I said, Playground had a chemistry. I think without all of us together, when I first started, Brendan wasn't in the band. He was, but then, he left, and I never knew him at the time. So me sounding a little biased there. I mean, I can play with Steve, Joey, and Tom and go out and do this again if they wanted to really do this. I mean, I started looking into doing it. Hopefully they want to do this anniversary thing, and I'm for it. I mean, I've got nothing else to do. You know what I'm saying? You just sit here and play with yourself, or you can go out and have some fun. And maybe something comes out of it. I know we're old now, but it is what it is.
Worst case scenario, period, is you have a good time and that's it. And that's the worst thing that can happen.
But that's how I always looked at it. All these bands that are playing, you're looking to have a good time. I mean, you got some of these bands today that are so into the industry and trying to make it work. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how to make the industry work anymore because I don't know how it works. Because we could come up with a band, put it on Spotify, put our own albums out digitally, and do it ourselves. I mean, it wasn't like that years ago. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, I'm still a purist. Behind me, I still got CDs and DVDs behind me and stuff. I'm old school. I love to sit down to an album and look at the lyrics and follow along. And there's nothing like it. I don't want to go and say, hey, Echo, play the best of Whitesnake and stuff. It's nice, but you kind of take away from the whole fun of what music was all about, the collections of collecting. I mean, I got 10,000 digital stuff that I got obscure CDs and albums that you can't even get anymore from the 80s era and probably the 70s era. I'm a collector. I enjoy it. It's what it is. It's all good.
It makes arguing a lot more fun too.
That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, and it's like you said, when you're doing, when you want to play, and you want to do like different things and stuff like that, it's such a different, I'm 52 years old, I was in Playground. I was in my mid 20s, you know what I'm saying? So it's like so much had happened. And if we had what you have now, we probably could have done this ourselves. You had like the business side of the band, right? You had Brendan, who was more business ethics, and he was trying to push it from a business standpoint. I think, like, to me, Joey kind of was like keeping it together. And then you had, like Steve and Brendan were kind of the main songwriters along with Tommy. So again, without the two or at least three of us, you wouldn't have had Playground. And the beautiful thing about Playground was, for my own personal life, was I moved on. I played in different bands. I learned to be a better musician. I learned to take what I've learned from Playground and try to escalate it and do some of the things that I shouldn't have done. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, we came close at times, but we never really made it. And sometimes you just got to say, you know what? I'm a music fan. I love music. I could just sit back, jam, play in my basement, and Wednesday nights I jam with some friends of mine at my yacht club, and we just look at a screen on a TV with six of us. I got a saxophone player, three acoustic guitars. I'm playing bass, and we're playing some fun 70s stuff, Allman Brothers, and it keeps the chops up. It just as long as I'm playing it, it's fun. And then if this playground thing takes off, great. If not, hey, it is what it is.
And one thing I've learned at the age that we've gotten, we can't underestimate the value of just having a good time. It doesn't happen that often anymore at our age.
Just like Poison said it, nothing but a good time. And I totally agree with it, but I would, hey, look, if I was able to do it again, it would be great. But unfortunately, I don't have the look. I don't have I don't have the push anymore because everybody's got bills to pay and people have to work and we can't get everybody together. Tommy's out of state, Brendan's out of state, Joey's out of state. If you think about it, I think we're all in all different states.
And the damn children get in the way.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I wouldn't say unfortunately. Fortunately for myself, me and my wife, we never had kids. We didn't want it. We were both only children, and I wouldn't have half of the stuff that I have now because we kind of do what we didn't have the opportunity to do when we were kids. So it just didn't play out, and it is what it is. And not that we don't, no regrets there.
I got extras if you want to borrow.
Oh, well, that's the beautiful thing about friends and family with kids, because it's almost like rent a kid. You have them for a couple hours and then you send them back because I don't have to deal with all that bullshit.
The BS is always 3 a.m.
Exactly. So what do we got here, buddy? I got a list here, man. I mean, this is tough.
I actually and this is not a rule, but I kind of relegated myself to one song per album. Not something we had to do.
Okay.
But it just made my choices a little bit more personal for me and made it a little bit easier.
Okay, that's great. I kind of looked at each. I wanted to look at each era. To me, every time Black Sabbath had changed singers, I like to look at each era and kind of like, what were the pros and cons of this, and if we had to pick, like, who was your favorite singer for Black Sabbath after Ozzy left. It's like it was always the iconic Dio when I have always looked at it from a personal perspective, because right before his it was before his solo career, he was in Rainbow, and Deep Purple, another, new, what do they call it? The new wave of British heavy metal iconic band that was so influential with Richie Blackmore, another band that moved on without, how do you have Deep Purple without Richie Blackmore? You do it. You do it.
I forgot about Deep Purple. You're right.
So you think about it, so now you got to, and when you look, when I looked at the Black Sabbath years with Dio, you can hear how Black Sabbath progressed as a band and their songwriting. They were very, I looked at Black Sabbath as being, in the beginning, very simple, come up with an iconic riff and let it grab you, and see where it goes with it, slow, fast, they had so many different types of style, that Tony Iommi had, and being limited with his, I thought was with his iconic sound and stuff, and how he progressed over the years. I think Black Sabbath from musicians had gotten better, and even maybe the songwriting. I know Tommy's going to shoot me with that one, but there's some real killer stuff that they wrote without Ozzy. So, I mean, don't be biased. You can't be biased on it, and if it wasn't Ozzy leaving Sabbath or kicked out of Sabbath, edit it so I have that right. You wouldn't have some of iconic music with Ozzy's solo stuff. I mean, he had collaborated such great music that he would not have done with Black Sabbath. Definitely not. and opened up the door for these iconic musicians that became the Eddie Van Halen era.
Let me ask you a question, and this is only something I just noticed just this instant. So it's gonna be a strange one. When a group moves on with a new singer and they release, another discography of stuff, is the best album with a new singer always the very first one?
I'm gonna say probably it can be. It depends. It's a yes and no, because sometimes a band goes into a change and they have to kind of feel the what's the word that I'm looking for? You have to. I look at it in the sense that you have to feel comfortable with each other. You're totally different now. You're not the same band. Sometimes it takes a band. Sometimes it takes any band, whether you're changing a singer or having or just when you're changing members in a band. Sometimes it takes that second album to really feel comfortable and really feel good about what you're writing. And like I said, I can name a couple of bands that have done that. That I thought their first albums were iconic, but they really put their shit together on their second album because they've established a unit. I'm going to say Metallica, Kill 'Em All, killer album. But when they got Cliff Burton and Kirk Hammett into the band, Ride the Lightning was, to me, their first album together as the Metallica of I would have said at the time, as of today. Not because, Cliff Burton died and they went through changes of musicians. However, that was the band. Kill 'Em All, you got Kirk Hammett playing Dave Mustaine riffs. You got Cliff Burton trying to rewrite riffs already that Ron Montgomery did. So that's, I think of some bands have to put together. In the Black Sabbath era, I would have to say, yes, that first album that was put together with a new singer, I thought was friggin' killer.
Well, I was thinking not just Sabbath, but with Van Halen's first album with a new singer, AC/DC's new album with a first album with a new singer. But you're right with the Metallica thing. As I get older, I seem to move away from Kill 'Em All. I know we're both in the minority here. I know Kill 'Em All is loved.
It's
but
great.
It's not one of my favorites.
It's a great album, but again, being a huge fan, like being a huge Metallica fan that I was growing up with them, Kill 'Em All is probably maybe in my top 5, but it's still a great album, but it's not it's not the Metallica of what we knew. It's like bringing members into the band to learn somebody else's songs.
It was such a bump to Ride the Lightning. Ride the Lightning is, in my eyes, so much better than Kill 'Em All.
Correct. And like I said, when you said you take a band like Van Halen, it's like, how do you, 1984 was so iconic and it was so heavily commercial. I would say commercialized because of how they changed their direction, but kept what Van Halen was about. That's what I loved about Van Halen. Every album to me always sounded different. And I think every band should show their creativity. And you got fans that blast bands for doing this. Sometimes I would say in my mind, yeah, maybe with Van Halen, I maybe would have seen, Eddie go on his own, do his own thing. I think he would have put some killer stuff out there without, in the purest fans, tarnishing the Van Halen name, even though it was his name. I thought 5150 had some good stuff on it. I thought AU812 had some good stuff on it. I thought For Uncarnal Knowledge was friggin' killer. And a lot of people don't like that album. I thought there was some great music that was written in there. Real heavy stuff and kind of broad. And if you listen to it closely, if what's his name was on this, he would probably, he would say, I agree. They brought a lot of the old Van Halen feel back into that album. And I don't understand why people didn't like it. I thought it was great.
Well, for me, my favorite Hagar album has got to be 5150.
5150, I thought was great, but when you look at it, it was from a fan's perspective, it's a shock. You're going from 1984 into They continued that keyboard-esque, trying to get a little bit more commercialized, more radio friendly, but with a new singer. And it wasn't just a nobody. This was an iconic singer, solo player that's been around for years. And now you're taking that and bringing it into probably one of the most iconic, probably hard rock and roll bands of all time. And it's almost, how do you do it? Joey, like, how do you have Kiss without Peter Criss? How do you have Kiss without Ace Frehley? But Kiss wrote some killer music, collaborated with other musicians that put together some really killer stuff that they couldn't do with Peter Criss or Ace Frehley. Come on. Creatures of the Night, the most underrated album in Kiss's catalog, I thought was probably one of their heaviest comeback album ever. You know what I'm saying? And you put together Vinnie Vincent, who did some really killer songwriting on it, with Ace Frehley's face on the cover just to make sales for the album. Kiss Creatures of the Night is probably one of my top 5 Kiss albums of all time.
It's for the 80s stuff, it's the #1 best Kiss album.
I
thought was up there too, but Creatures of the Night.
Come on. I mean, look, everybody that was into Bon Jovi and all these 80s, I call them hair metal bands only because that's what do you classify them as? Hard rock, commercial rock bands of the 80s. Kiss put out some real killer rock and roll. Lick It Up, killer album. Animalize, a lot of purists don't really care for the album because they feel Kiss wasn't involved and it was Paul Stanley's solo out. But there's some killer stuff on there. Asylum, I thought was a great album. Production was killer. Yes, Kiss, Kiss with the makeup and Peter Criss and Ace Frehley and the Demon and whatever. You can't take away from some of the music they put together without these guys, Would it have been great to see Kiss retire with their original 4 members? Of course. But the music that they were writing, Peter Criss could not handle that stuff. The double bass, come on. Double bass, baby. Peter Criss is not a double bass player. Come on. But anyway, there I go, going on that tangent again.
Without Joey, we spent half an hour on Kiss.
Yeah. No, but you know what it is? You look at it in a different limelight, right? Joey hates Black Sabbath. He hates everything that has to do with Black Sabbath. And that's okay. There are many people out there that don't like Black Sabbath, but there are many bands out there that I don't particularly like because maybe their music doesn't grab me. It doesn't do anything for me, but I do respect musicianship. I do respect that musicianship and what that bands or any bands bring to music and its fans and to musicians. I'm like, again, I'm not a professional musician anymore, but I try to do it. And as we've all gotten older, our musical horizons had opened up. Everybody wasn't focused. If you're like a Metallica, if you were like the Big Four fan, Metallica, Anthrax, and you wanted to listen to like Motley Crue, no, you're a poser. No, you get your ass kicked if you listen to that. No, I've learned from a musician standpoint, playing with Playground, I've gotten into bands from a musician's standpoint so I can learn my instrument. You can't learn everything from listening to thrash metal. So I started listening to Dokken and getting it. And I started really gravitating to that style of music and why I enjoyed playing with Playground. Coming from a thrash band, a guitar player, wanting to be James Hetfield to playing, commercial, hard, just rock and roll. And it's not you got to feel good with what you're playing. And you can't be closed-minded when it comes to music, if it wasn't for Black Sabbath, I probably wouldn't have wanted to pick up an instrument. Or same thing with Kiss. Kiss was the band, it was all the fire and the theatrics and I called it the comic era, comic books type era. They brought it to life, and if it wasn't for that, they probably would never have made it. And I'm being honest with you. I used from a music standpoint, I thought they wrote some really great music back in the 70s, and they've contributed a lot. But if it wasn't for that theatrics, they wouldn't have been as big as they were. And that's the God's honest truth. I mean, you take a band like Kiss, well, we've opened up for Blue Oyster Cult, and then Blue Oyster Cult opened up for us. And it's like, yeah, because if it wasn't for the theatrics of you bringing fans in, you wouldn't have been that big. Because Blue Oyster Cult, from a musician standpoint, shit's all over Kiss. You know what I mean? Joey's going to shoot me for that one, but that's okay. But it's true.
If you pressed Cassata on it, I bet you he would say he doesn't hate Sabbath, but he does hate Ozzy. I think that's really.
Look, Black Sabbath was something that was new and different. It was very, again, it's one of those bands that you either love them or you hate them. There's no in between. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, people will turn around and say, okay, when I look at Black Sabbath or any of these iconic bands, I like to look at the deep cuts, because everybody knows you're Paranoid, you're War Pigs, and your Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. I mean, yes, they're great songs, and they became that popular because they were great songs. But look at these other ones that are overlooked, and over the years that they put together. Again, on Ozzy eras, non-Ozzy eras, there's a lot of songs in there that are overlooked. And you turn around to anybody that listens to music that maybe only knows Ozzy era, play these songs and say, I would never listen to Black Sabbath, only with Ozzy. I'll put a song on that would sound like, something that doesn't even sound like Sabbath. What do you think of this riff? Does it grab you? Yeah, this is a great song. Yeah, well, it's Sabbath.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you mean.
Well, no, you look at it. I look at a lot of, like you said, bands need to evolve. Bands need to be able to show their creativity. Another perfect. They're a local. They're not really local. They're personal friends of mine. Life of Agony. Life of Agony put out an album called River Runs Red back in the late, I guess, 89, right? 89, 90, I think it was. Killer fucking album. These are guys I grew up with that when they first started, I would never think in a million years, listening to their demos, that they would become as iconic as they have. And as they started, as they started going through, they found their niche. They became more of a rock band. They kind of got a little bit away from their hardcore punk sounding, sound, and became they developed their own style. And a lot of fans, a lot of fans says, they haven't done anything better since River Runs Red. Listen to their later albums, man. These guys grew as musicians. They play better. They write better. They sound better. Their production is better. And that's the problem. People are just closed-minded, and you just can't, you can't be closed-minded when it comes to music. You got to let Metallica, another perfect example, Load Era. Let me tell you something. I'm a purist. However, there's some killer stuff on those two albums. There's some killer music on there. Take out the Metallicas are thrash gods. Oh, I can only live with Damage Incorporated and Master of Puppets. And why? Because the band decided to grow as musicians and they write good. It's good friggin' music. Good music, man.
There is one great album. If you take the best of Load and Reload and mixed into one album, there's a pretty good album there.
Yeah, I actually compiled one. It's on my phone. I call it Loaded. I call it Loaded, and I made a cover for it, and I took my favorite songs from the two albums. And, if that album probably would have had the production of the Black Album, they say that album was very well produced. I thought that album, they lost that Metallica guitar tone. that true heavy, when you listen to like Ozzy Osbourne with Zakk Wylde, that's Zakk, man. He's got that heavy riff, that in your face riff. I think if they would have had the tone of the Black Album with these type of songs, I think the album would have been perceived a little bit better from a heavy metal standpoint, while still playing some of these slower country-esque type songs. You know what? They didn't give a fuck. And you know what? Go online and try to find the vinyl for Load or Reload. Always out of stock. Can never get it. Can never get them. I want to get them. I'm waiting for them to put out the box set because I'm curious of how they collaborated this out. How did you come up with this idea of kind of going from one direction to the next? They grow as musicians. Whatever. It is what it is. People love them. Let me tell you something. There are millions of fans out there that think the Load and Reload era was their finest hour.
I'm sure.
Think about it. If they didn't change in the 90s, they wouldn't have been here. Why try to recreate something that you already had? You can't. Pantera in the 90s already became the iconic new heavy metal band of that era to kind of take thrash and groove and maybe a little grunge and make what it's already been done. Metallica's not going to try to copy that. Metallica never did that. So they came up with another idea. And if you listen to Load and Reload, it's very Black Sabbath.
Well, I was going to point out something about
I'll do that too when if we get to these top fives.
well, there's a Sabbath song with Ozzy from 2013. It was a single called "God Is Dead." The second part of the song sounds like Metallica's Reload, Load album. Yeah, it sounds like the riffing is all Metallica Load.
What you heard in that era was Black Sabbath. You heard Aerosmith. You heard Thin Lizzy. You heard what was the other bit? Maybe a little Motorhead. You got a little Motorhead in there, I think. It's not heavy, but you got a little bit of a little punk influence in some of the tunes, even though the songs were slower. And then you had some of their 80s sound from Justice, like in Until It Sleeps, the chords. It was a little more, those chords that they're using in there were very Queensryche and stuff during the main verse, in the bridge area verse going into the chorus. Those like I used to call them the inverted power chords and stuff like that. This was stuff that they did back in their garage era days. They took their influences and did something a little bit different. That's how I perceived that era. Yes, when I first heard it, it took me a while. Look, when you're in a band, if it takes you years before you get into the album, sometimes I would just say it's not really worth it. But because the band was so iconic and such a big influence on me, I try to find every way possible to, how can I like this album? How can you like it? Like Saint Anger, that could have been a great album if it was produced properly. I've heard bands all over YouTube recreate that album with a great production and crunch down. That album would have been a great comeback album. But no, they don't give a shit. They do what they want. They don't care how the fans perceive it. And I tip my hat to them. They're going to sell like any other band. They're going to sell regardless. They could put out Mary Had a Little Lamb and they're going to sell. They're going to sell.
Agreed. Not going to argue about Metallica.
No. I mean, but again, it kind of segues into what we're doing. I mean, Black Sabbath, if it wasn't for Black Sabbath, they starting the new wave of British heavy metal, you wouldn't have had Priest. You may have had Priest because of Deep Purple, but it would, and Led Zeppelin, but it would have been different. You wouldn't have had Motorhead. If it wasn't for Motorhead, you wouldn't have had thrash metal.
Absolutely.
So what do you want to do? What do you think here? You think we should give this thing a shot? Start it up?
Okay. You want me to go first?
Yeah, go first.
All right.
It'd be funny if you actually pick one of mine.
I don't think this is going to be one of yours.
Okay.
I think it's just going to be one of nobody's. From Born Again, the last song on the album, Keep It Warm.
It is a good song because I really feel I love Born Again. I think that album is killer, and for so many reasons. And believe it or not, I have two songs from. I actually have two. I could probably have three from that. I could probably do the whole top five off this album. No, it's great. It's great. And what makes it? What is one of the things that make that album great is Ian Gillan. I mean, the guy is just magical with vocals, especially coming from a Dio era.
Yep.
You can't go backwards anymore. If anything, you got to progress. And I think Born Again is great. I think it's a great pick. I was thinking of something like that. I try to be obscure. My number 5 I'm going to pick is going to be what it's a staple from that album. And Zero the Hero. That song is just crushing. Slow, but I can picture, just picture. Hopefully Joey will put the tune in there. I know it's probably the most commercial off the album. It's the most publicized from a video standpoint, and from probably a heavy metal radio station standpoint. But that song is just, especially what the hell's the name of the song before it? It's the intro. It's the instrumental. The darkness. That kind of goes into it. And what makes that song great, it's traditional Black Sabbath. I can actually hear Ozzy sing it, but with Ian Gillan's strong voice, I think that's killer. I mean, it's hard, like we said, there's albums that this band put together that is freaking killer stuff. If people just have an open mind.
So I'll follow up about Zero to Hero. Have you ever heard? I'm assuming this is not another choice. Buried Alive from Dehumanizer.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. I'm trying to see it because I did pick something from Dehumanizer.
Because Buried Alive is the same riff as Zero to Hero. Like Tony actually copied himself, it sounds like to me.
But that's so,
he's allowed, of course, it's his song.
You can have a similarity riff, but you think about it, that is the iconic Sabbath riff. The sound, slow. There's no speed. It's just crushing riff. And with the vocals, which basically he's kind of streamlining the whole main riff. He's like kind of like pitching it. Like you could picture a mosh pit on that song because it's so and then it has that Deep Purple feel. What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be, brother? Zero. That is a Deep Purple riff. You're taking two great bands, put them together, man. That's awesome. No, that's great, man.
See, the riff to Zero to Hero, where it like dun 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 dun, like it doesn't have a stop and a next. I hear a lot of the beginning of grunge right there to me as well.
See, that's the thing too. I mean, I know the grunge era was like, everybody talks about the grunge era, how it destroyed rock and roll, but what it did is basically kind of go back to its roots. I mean, bands like Nirvana, I'm not a Nirvana fan. I really never was. And look, do I respect them? Absolutely, I respect them as a band and musicians and what they brought to music, because so many people loved them, and a lot of bands in that era were influenced by them in the 2000s. But you take the old. Let's take the glam era that had that punk feel, right? You take that punk feel with that little bit of heaviness. You got Nirvana. I mean. Another band, one of my favorites of the 90s, I thought were such great musicians, Alice in Chains. You wouldn't have had that dark doom, heavy heavy riff with those great freaking vocals. If it wasn't for Sabbath, what do you think they got it from Kiss? No, they got it from Sabbath, man. Sabbath was pure heavy metal. Pure heavy metal.
Before there was any.
Before it was there. I mean, you had heavy bands. I mean, like, you know, you had, I considered like Sabbath the more heavy metal. I thought started that real heavy metal sound. When you go back to Deep Purple, like I said, I thought was more of the beginning starts of progressive metal. Like bands like Rush and Dream Theater. I mean, would you have had that if it wasn't for like, those are the two big iconic bands of all time. We should do a Deep Purple one because there's some good stuff with that too. Between Gillan and Coverdale and now you got what's his name playing guitar for them, writing some killer stuff. Steve Morse. I mean, come on, man. Bands. I mean, I like, you know, you want to move on, but some of these older bands, man, really know how to still put it together. Come on.
Oh hell yeah.
I mean, shit. You would think that Joey would like a little bit of Black Sabbath during the era when Eric Singer was playing drums. I mean, come on.
Sabbath is not really a party group or a fun group.
Correct. It was always in your face, straight in your face, metal, heavy. I don't even know if he, you know, did we call it heavy metal back then? I mean, you know, think about it. I mean, well, then again, we had this before in another top five when we turned around and said that what do we think what was the first probably heavy metal song that was ever written? Didn't we say we think it might have been the Beatles?
The Helter Skelter, yeah.
The Helter Skelter, which that riff kind of could have started punk.
Sure.
You know, I mean, you know, you go back to the influences and stuff like that. But now, Born Again, killer album. I have another song, but I can let's say I think I have enough here. I mean, the other one that I would have picked as a follow up from this album because I kind of wanted to do one from those albums. Digital Bitch.
Huh. That's so weird you mentioned that one because
shit. Oh, you know what? Let me take that back. Let's cut when we edit it, let's edit that out if this was another one of your picks. Then I don't want to do that.
I only chose one song from each album anyway.
Oh, okay.
So we could keep talking about this album because I have no more choices from this album anyway.
Okay, neither do I. What I liked about Digital Bitch, again, it was very Deep Purple-esque, and you know the chorus had a very Euro punk feel to it, where punk was becoming the new big thing. When you had, what do we have from there? We had the Sex Pistols, we had the Clash, with London Calling, which is such a great freaking album. Another underrated band, Clash. I wouldn't say underrated. I'm talking about kids today. Unless you really want to go back in time, Clash was just freaking great, freaking awesome music. You know.
The best thing about Digital Bitch though is the bridge. Oh, that's the best part of the song for me.
Actually, that would be great if Joey would like put that part in there. What you doing that? No,
I said it was funny that you chose that song because I would have chose two other songs from Born Again, and neither of them happen to be Zero the Hero or Digital Bitch. So I guess we both love this album.
This is actually kind of one of my top, you know, like I said, Sabbath. I mean, you know, I'm always going to go back to the Ozzy era because I'm a purist. So, but that album was such, you know, holy when I first heard it, I'm like, what the hell is this? This is insane. You would not think that it would be this iconic and good, but it is. But
I would have went Disturbing the Priest, for example.
Oh, I think the whole album is just the whole album alone is just freaking really good. Be open-minded. Anybody out there that's listening to this and you're a purist in the Ozzy era, even some of you new kids out here that might be listening to music, listen to Born Again. Killer fucking album.
You know, Trash is a true story, you know.
Yes. All right, so wait, so hold on a second. So are you keeping notes here?
No, but we didn't get anywhere, so I could start.
All right, so I picked 0, 0, the hero, right? And
You keep your own, I'll keep my own.
okay, good. Okay. All right, so let's try. I guess we can go for number 4.
Oh, one last thing I would say about Born Again, though, but trashed. It's
Oh,
Ian Gillan was driving, I think, Bill Ward's car, and that's what the song is about. He crashed that car.
is that what he did?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, the chorus from Trashed, lyrically, when he's saying, God, it's a miracle. You saved me. And then he promises God, I won't get trashed again. Then he goes, oh, can't you hear my lies? You know, it's so honest.
Yeah. Look, that's it, man. I love it. Oh God, it's such a great, it's so awesome. So let's see, what do we got for my number 4 is going to be pretty obscure, but go ahead, you go.
All right, my number 4 is from an album that doesn't even say Black Sabbath on the cover, but it is a Black Sabbath album. The song is Follow the Tears.
I was just thinking of that one too. Did I? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no. I got another one. Okay.
From the Devil You Know from 2007.
A lot of the, I guess, in my own, in all honesty, I guess I kind of got away from them after a while in the 2000s a little bit. I wasn't spending as much time because there was so much new shit that I was listening to, and I was going back to the older stuff again. So I in all honesty, I didn't really kind of follow them during that album. I tried to get back into them with the one when Ozzy came back. I didn't like it. I wasn't a I mean, it was good, sometimes you think to yourself, 40 years into the making, maybe guys, the magic is not really there anymore. But if you want to go out on tour and retire playing the old stuff, but you wanted to put an album out, that's great. But I didn't, I think the last one, didn't I? What was it, the end or what was it? 13th. I didn't feel it. Sometimes these bands, they lose it. Yeah, but that song is actually, that's a really good song, but I kind of drifted away from them. That's why I said this was going to be a little bit of a tough top 5, because I'm kind of zoned, between I guess the late 70s, early 80s into probably maybe getting into the 90s and stuff like that. But my number 4.
I happen to love, I just want to say, I love the Devil You Know album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Now that you said it, I'm going to give that one. I like to give that one a listen, again, and see if I can get myself back into it.
It's probably heavier than even the big Dio Sabbath albums, and it's so damn depressing lyrically.
Well, that's what it is. Like everybody used to classify. How do you classify Black Sabbath's music? Picture it slow moving mud going down the wall. It's like sludge.
That's great. That's real good.
That's how I would look at it. But I picked this song, and I think this song kind of opened up a lot of. It had a little bit of different genres in it. Song is called Neon Nights.
Oh, of course I know it. Yeah. The first non-Ozzy Sabbath song there is.
I'll tell you why I picked this one off this album, something that was a little bit more, I thought was a little bit more obscure than, the traditional ones everybody would pick. If you listen to that tune, right, you can hear what became early Maiden before Bruce Dickinson joined. And because if you listen to the production on it, I liked it from a bass player standpoint. The bass is very pronounced, loud, and it also reminded me a lot of Motorhead. And that's where I got out of this song. It's very. If you listen to Iron Maiden's first album in Killers, listen to the tracks. It's classic Black Sabbath. It's classic Black Sabbath. And, you know, Iron Maiden, Steve Harris does most of the songwriting. So everything is pronounced when it comes to bass, because a lot of those tunes he writes with the bass, and then the guitars come in and try to put it together and piece it into Iron Maiden sound. That's why if you think about it, Steve Harris, probably the most, and Iron Maiden, I know Tommy doesn't like them. I know Joey doesn't like them, but it is probably one of the most influential heavy metal bands outside of Black Sabbath and probably Judas Priest, because Judas Priest has been around since the early 70s. And Black Sabbath, I thought, was a little heavier. However, Judas Priest had the iconic vocals, you know, it had the vocals went another level. You know, he took what maybe Ian Gillan has done, or even what Ronnie James Dio has done with Rainbow, and took it to that operatic, you know, and started putting the foundation together, which became progressive metal, you know, where bands were singers and showed musicianship and that kind of stuff. So this one had a little bit more of a punk edge to it, which I thought, because what was big back in 1980? Punk in Europe, right? So Iron Maiden with Paul Di'Anno, you know, his voice is, you look at him and fucking Bruce Dickinson, it's like night and day. But my favorite era, I mean, I love both eras of Maiden, but I really love if I had to pick my favorite album of all time for Maiden, I would have to say Killers. Killers is just a great heavy metal album. Mind you, the first album is great. Prowler is fucking insane, you know, but I liked it because it was kind of like this band finally found where they were going. You know what I'm saying? With that era, they were getting a little bit more metal. It was a little heavier. I thought there was some speed in it, a little more speed, where they were taking that punk era, but they never put that speed really. They never had that blast beat really. You know what I'm saying? So Metallica had to come around and do that, you know, by bringing in the punk stuff. But Neon Nights, I thought was probably one of the most underrated songs from that album. Wait, I just lost my notes.
When I think of Paul Di'Anno, and I also love him. I love him too. In some ways, there's more personality in his voice because he is not as operatic talented as Dickinson. There's a lot of personality, but lyrically, a lot of the songs, it's always a split personality thing going on, where he's a killer, but he at the end he wakes up suddenly. What I do? I go like that.
No, I mean, you know, but when you look at it, I mean, excuse me. When I first got into Iron Maiden, I mean, I was a late bloomer. I didn't get into it until like into the mid 80s. So my first time seeing them was on U68. We were talking about doing like a U68 video. And the first video I've ever seen was Run to the Hills, right? And the first time I heard it, it was so, you know, back then I was just kind of getting into, when did that album come out? 83, 82, right? 82. I mean, I was 12 years old. I wasn't thinking of playing music at the time, you know, and when that song came out, it was so freaking fast because we used to listen to, what was the other thing on WNEW, Metal Shop was the radio station that we would listen to. When I got into junior high, that's when everybody started I started finding where I was in music. You know, I met people wearing the Kiss t-shirts and the Motley Crue, and, you know, and that's how I kind of started getting into it. But when I first heard it, I said, this is freaking awesome. So, you know, when I was growing up in Canarsie, Brooklyn, we had a local record shop on Rockaway Parkway. This is before my friend's record store, Zero CD Cellar, right? I would take a walk like down to Rockaway Parkway, and I wanted to find some Iron Maiden stuff. So I found, I think it was Killers, right? The Killers was the first album that I actually owned. And I started playing it, and I'm like, am I watching the same band? Because you didn't have Wikipedia or internet. All you had was like a Cream magazine and Metal Edge and what was the other fucking heavy metal
Circus.
and stuff like this. So I didn't know, I didn't know what the fuck is this, And I thought this was freaking killer because I actually thought Bruce Dickinson, when I was 12 years old, was annoying. His vocals were fucking annoying. But then I heard Iomie with like a more subtle. I say subtle in a sense because it wasn't that operatic and that and you know what I'm saying. And I just didn't like it as much as I liked the older stuff. Then I found their first album, and I thought, oh God, this is fucking great. But then I started learning as I started learning how to play guitar and learning about music in general, where the differentias, how the band differentiated. When Bruce Dickinson came into Iron Maiden, that kind of signified, I think, what Steve Harris's mind was for where Maiden should be going and should have been doing. Not saying being a progressive metal band, and I don't know if they really were thinking of that at the time. I think they just wanted to be a good heavy metal band with some drive, and Steve Harris being like, when you listen to Steve Harris, right, he's known as probably one of the best bass players, or probably in the top 10 or maybe top 5 best heavy metal bass players of all time. But when you listen to his style, I love him because of the speed, and he does it with his fingers, and plays that way. He doesn't follow a basic, there really wasn't a rhythm section. It was just straight guitars and fast drumming and fast bass playing following. That's where I say he's very influenced on that punk side, because he's very straight, but the way he plays it and throws the notes in there, you know what I'm saying, which makes it iconic. He doesn't really write walking bass lines. He doesn't, if you think about it now, if you take, like I said, if you're trying to compare him to like him or a Geddy Lee, totally two different styles of bass playing, or even like I'm talking from a finger playing perspective. I mean, one of my favorite bass players of all times is Chris Squire from Yes, and he's a big player. But the riffs that he wrote on a bass was just iconic. But then again, one of the fastest of the era was what's his name from Sabbath,
Butler.
But he's had the fat. Well, him and John Entwistle probably became my influences to playing the bass. When I played the bass with Playground, really, I wasn't following bass players. So my influences were probably Jason Newsted and Gene Simmons.
You mentioned only because we're talking about bass. I met a guy once in a park drinking in this might have been 1986, 87. A guy named Kenny Shook.
I know Kenny.
Yeah, he's now the drummer of Candiria. Yeah.
Your neighborhood had, right, from Marine Park, we had 2 bands. My band this is before Playground. When I was just getting into high school, I formed the band with some friends that I worked with in Key Food and on across street from South Shore.
Sure.
South Shore High School, and my a good friend of mine, Eric Stein, we were like inseparable. He was good friends with Dave Rabaro, and that's how I met Dave. I met Dave through Eric. And Eric was lived in Canarsie with me, and we worked together. We went to school together, hung out at Edward R. Murrow, and then we worked together in Key Food because we became good friends. And we ended up turning around and gravitating towards metal. We were all started with the Kiss and the Motley Crue, but then we wanted to do something different. And then we kind of found WSOU, so on and so forth. So we would sit in there. He was the bass player. We used to sit in his house, and I had my guitar with my overdrive pedal, and we would just play along with bands like Overkill, Anthrax, what is it, Metallica, and that's what we wanted to do. So we wanted to form a band. So I ended up forming a band with a drummer from Marine Park. No, actually, I'm sorry, Old Mill Basin. His name was Peter DeStefano. And he worked in the produce section, and he was a huge classic rock, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Big John Bonham, big Ward fan. And and then we ended up starting to jam. And then we met some more people from South Shore. And then we ended up forming our first band. We were called Demented Retribution. Demented Retribution. And we played the South Shore Battle of the Bands. Eric Stein ended up not being fond of our guitar player, because he was more into the agnostic front, Misfits, more of a punk, and wanted to change the band to go more of a hardcore style. And I wanted to be the next James Hetfield. That's how we met this other band, local band, that later then became Life of Agony. And their bass player, Alan Robert, was our singer at the time. And and then Eric ended up joining this band in Marine Park that were friends with Kenny Shawk, this kid that I went to school with, Glenn Oshner. He was the guitar player.
I know who that is too.
Glenn, tall guy.
Yeah.
We went to Edward R. Murrow together, and Steve, I forgot Steve was the other guitar player, and the drummer was Tommy, good friends with Kenny Shawk. Tommy, oh fuck, what the hell was his name? He lived, I think, directly right across the street from the park on East 30 some on the other side. Where you were like kind of off of where the school was, right?
Pretty close to there, yeah.
If you go down, what was that, Quentin Road or Fillmore, where you pass the school and the entrance to the park? I think that's 32nd Street, I would like to say.
Yeah, right next to the park.
Right? Well, he lived there, and that's where they used to jam, because we used to play at Ace London Studios all the time, and that's how I met Joe Bravo. And they formed a band called, I think they were originally called Witch's Tit.
That rings
they
a
were
bell.
huge.
That rings a bell, actually.
They were hugely influenced by, Led Zeppelin, Metallica, Iron Maiden. They wanted to take those styles and put it all together and make like more of a progressive East type band. They played a couple of bars. I remember seeing them at Brooklyn College. There was that bar off that little main street off of Flatbush Avenue that goes to wherever that secondary street going towards Midwood. And there was a bar there. So they played there. They played Edward R. Murrow. They did Edward R. Murrow Battle of the Bands. And I think they did a South Shore one too. I'm not sure if they did it with my band or if there was another band, but anyway, they just never, they never really made it. Glenn, I don't know. We all lost contact and stuff like that, but no, but that's, like I said, that's how it happened. And how the fuck did we get on this topic? But anyway.
I was mentioning what Kenny Shawk taught me about.
Oh, yes, right, Kenny. Yeah,
so
Kenny was playing with his brother before Candiria formed. They were like in a thrash metal band. I don't remember the name of the band. It was another name before. Before they formed Candiria, and they went in this totally new direction. A very obscure, weird sounding stuff, but kind of still following. They were still considered part of what they called the New York hardcore era. Like when Biohazard was coming out. I mean, we were all friends with Biohazard. Shit, we used to fucking play in Ace London, and we used to order pizza, and freaking what's his name used to come and deliver the pizza because he used to work at Lenny and John's. Evan used, when he had the long hair, and they were just Biohazard was just forming, and
Evan Seinfeld, right?
Evan Seinfeld, yeah. I don't know. Did he ever change his name when he was in the band? No, I guess he didn't. Yeah, Evan was there, and then we played at the other studio where I think it was on Flatbush Avenue. Not maybe Sink the Pink.
Was the Pink?
There was one on Utica Avenue and there was one on Flatbush Avenue, and Billy from Biohazard, the guitar player, used to. I think he used to run that studio with some real iconic people in like the hardcore industry. I think Drew Stone was there. He does his own. Watch it. He does the New York Hardcore Chronicles. It's on YouTube. Great interviews that he does with some iconic musicians in the era from hardcore. He's done some thrash metal guys. I think Frank Bello was on there and stuff like that. And I believe Drew Stone also did the videos for Biohazard. I believe he did. Maybe Typo Negative too, because Carnivore was another big band from Brooklyn and stuff like that. So yeah, so Kenny was like the major Kenny. And speaking of Kenny Sharp, did you know that he also played with Fuel?
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, he played with Fuel. He did very well with him. I think he did very well with himself. And another local favorite guy, Candiria, right? They're still around. They're still doing their thing. I mean, he's got to be shit. He's got to be my age now, right? And maybe he was a couple of. Kenny was, I think, a couple of years younger than me, and we used to go to Ace London Studios, and he was what we would consider the Dave Lombardo, Lars Ulrich or Charlie Benanti at the time. This fucking kid could play double bass and a blast beat like no other. You take Joey and you take Joey and Kenny, probably one of the two underrated drummers probably in the industry. Kenny was playing so much. I mean, Candiria, weren't they doing a lot of that obscure stuff? They were not ska, but they were doing a lot of this off-time stuff, and it was really weird shit. And so many great bands came out of Brooklyn, and just starting a new style of music, and it's great to know some of these people, like, come on, Carnivore, freaking the drummer from Carnivore, recorded with them, and Agnostic Front, band's been around since shit. The guy is probably like 60 years old, freaking what's his name, Vinny Stigma, staple in the industry, still lives in the city, right? Still plays with his band. Still playing these shows, and they're touring, and the place is going ape shit listening to these old songs, man, from the Victims in Pain album, and it's just fucking sick, man.
And they're enjoying themselves, having a good time.
But that's what I'm saying. He's going out having a good time. These people are going out having a great time. I really wished at the time, because when I really wanted to start playing again, I started really listening to their music, like Agnostic Front, getting into because I was more of like I said, I like their older stuff, but then I started listening to a lot of the newer stuff. I wanted to audition for them, when they were still playing. Not still playing, they're still playing. But I would have loved to audition with them, and they got this guy now, freaking fantastic fucking musician, great bass player. What's his name? Gallo, and fucking he's got it's what he fits in the band. He fits in a lot better than I do. So it's freaking great, man. There's so much stuff that's local, right in front of you. You don't have to be in LA and California to do that. All right, so we probably got everybody bored out of their fucking mind. Why don't we pick
Now
up
what it was about?
we still got 3 more to do.
It's funny, one of the people that I was reaching out just got back to me now, Bacardi. Obviously it's too late, but I can throw his numbers in there if you want.
Yeah, we can throw it in. Why not?
All right, Bacardi, number 5, Trashed.
Okay, yeah. See, you know what? That was another one that I was gonna pick, but okay. So let's go and just give me his number 4.
Yep.
And
Bacardi, number 4, Mob Rules.
Oh, you motherfucker!
Oh,
You motherfucker! All right, I got another one I could pick. It's okay.
nah, we could do that. Doesn't mean that.
Mob Rules probably was going to be my next one, but no, I have another one. I like to try to mix it up. Come on,
Okay.
non-Ozzy era, we're going to duplicate. Come on, for Christ's sake, can't do that. Not happening.
You're a real Snyder.
Can't do that.
Uh,
Go ahead.
What do we have for
So
my
you're going to do number 3, okay?
all right, my number 3. Now I'm going to the Dehumanizer album.
Motherfucker, don't do it.
The song "Computer God."
Mother.
Whoops. Uh-oh.
Fuck. All right, we may have to have some duplicates. All right, hold on. Let me see what I got here. All right, then I may have to go back to one we might have been discussing then. All right, fine. You want to pick Computer God? Fucking take it. That is such a fucking killer song.
It's an epic. It's an epic.
Oh my God. That whole album is freaking epic.
But that song's 3 songs in one. I mean, that's incredible.
Oh, actually, my next 3 picks are actually from the same album.
Oh wow.
And we haven't gotten that far yet. No, Dehuman. When did that come out? 88?
92.
No, 92. Okay, all right. So it was towards the end of the. Okay, that album is just freaking killer. There's so many freaking great songs you could have picked from it. Yeah, Computer God would have been mine too. But I'm gonna go with what I have. Here, and if I have to go back and do that, I will. But okay, my number 3, "In for the Kill," off of 7th Star.
Oof, I don't got nothing off of that one.
I'll tell you. All right, Glenn Hughes is fucking amazing.
Oh yeah,
His voice is amazing. That album had so many great musicians on it. You had Joey, Eric Singer, and he had Dave Spitz, Danny's brother.
Oh wow.
Yeah, those were the 2 that I picked off of that I remembered from the album. It was kind of like a comeback, I think, because at that time, and I think that album maybe that one came out in 88, because the album had a picture of just him on it, saying Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi. I never understood the background behind that. There's a guy I follow on YouTube called Ralph Vieira, and he is a huge Black Sabbath fan. I'm sure he probably would have had an answer for it. But
Look, I believe I do know why that happened. Is that the album right after Born Again?
I believe so. Is it? No. Is it? No. Well, let's know. Ian Gillan only did the one album.
Yeah.
Okay, then yes, then it has to. Then I think it has to be. I could be wrong. If Snyder was on here, he probably would have told us.
Oh no, he wouldn't know about anything not Ozzy.
I never, like I said, I never followed it in the sense of what the albums in there. I knew Dio was next, and I knew Ian Gillan was next, and I know you have Glenn, you got you had Hughes and stuff like that. But I thought there was some really good stuff on it. I just think the promotional part of the album, it wasn't sellable because the cover sucked. If the album, you got to look at it from a marketing perspective. It looks all right. It's him on the cover. Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi. Okay, was it somebody else's band? You know what I'm saying? Isn't he Black Sabbath?
I'm not arguing that. I do know the story. He wanted to call it Tony Iommi. He wanted it to be a solo album. And the record company at the last second said, no, Black Sabbath has to be on the cover.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess there's 2 different ways you can look at it. One, he was maybe Black Sabbath was still on the contract to fulfill their album deal. Or he felt that he felt that it wouldn't have sold under just his name.
Or the record company, if anything, felt that.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, like I said, if you're not a full, I mean, I guess in rock music, if you're a music fan, you know who's in the band, you know what I'm saying? If you got to say Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi, that really, that's like saying Led Zeppelin featuring Jimmy Page.
but none of the original guys from were except
Well,
Tony.
there was nobody on it. It was a solo effort. So I guess, I mean, if anybody here, whoever's still maybe watching this, maybe comment and figure out. If that's the case, maybe they were probably still under a contract deal to fulfill their deal with the record company. I could probably go on Wikipedia and do it, but we're just making this into a 4-hour fucking thing. But no, I think no, that's probably what ended up happening. You're checking it, aren't you?
No, I'm getting Bacardi as number 3 ready.
Oh, okay.
Whatchamacallit, Bacardi is number 3. Sign of the Southern Cross.
That's off of what do you call it, right? Sign of the, what is it, Southern Cross?
Yeah, Mob Rules.
Mob Rules.
Matter of fact, his top 5 is very Mob Rules heavy, but
you know what? I gotta actually think. You think to yourself, right? So Mob, right? Didn't Mob Rules come out directly right after? Wasn't that that was the first out? See, that goes back to what we were saying before.
Heaven and Hell was first, though.
Mob Rules is a killer album. Mob Rules is, pardon me. Mob Rules is a killer album. It could probably be one of the top 5 Black Sabbath albums. Sorry, Tommy, but no, but I'm talking about it from a music perspective. Take out the Ozzy Osbourne on it. The music on it is just, again, you can make a top 5 right out of Mob Rules. So I mean, a lot of people, I would say, right, Ern, right? I guess after maybe people didn't like it, say, you know what? Black Sabbath is nothing without Ozzy. I tried it with Mob Rules, but freaking, what about the Live Evil album? You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's probably one of the most iconic heavy metal live albums next to Unleashed in the East.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, and Kiss Alive. I mean, shit. Come on.
Kiss Alive is not a live album.
No, but you know what I'm saying. But when you're looking at it from when you're looking at it from a perspective, I mean, yes, there's always going to be some studio work in this. I know we talked about this before when we were doing top studio albums or something like that. We didn't want to pick live albums. I don't remember what top 5 that was, but what's great about the live sound, because it's more raw. It has more of a heavy punch to it, because sometimes I always thought, like, when I listen to Kiss Alive, it's got the raw punch and the tones that you really would expect Kiss to have. But if you listen to those same songs, all right, can you listen to, look, one of my least favorite songs by Kiss is Rock and Roll All Night. Why? Because it's so played out. You know what I'm saying? So is it a great song of the time or having an anthem? Yes, it was a great song. You're never going to take that away. But when you listen to it from a live one, and then you listen to it from the studio album, it does not sound any way remotely close. It is no like, Strutter, and you take some of this. Take Alive too. I mean, everybody would say. I would say probably if you're a diehard Kiss fan, what would people pick as their top Kiss album of all time? Right? They would probably pick. I would say Destroyer or Rock and Roll Over. Rock and Roll Over. I mean, I like their old stuff, their pre-Alive albums, but when you listen to Alive 2, same thing. Listen to Detroit Rock City start compared to listening to it on going from then listening to it fade in on Destroyer. But
That's
you get
Bob Ezra. That's
what's
Bob
that?
Ezra. Pretty much.
But it depends on how you like what did Bob Rock say? Bob Rock turned around and said to Metallica, I'm sorry everybody that I keep bringing them up, but Bob Rock said that we need to put together an album that brings out your live sound, because you have not put that on an album yet. Not talking about a live album, taking your energy, your raw energy and power, and putting it on a studio album. And unfortunately, probably back then, you didn't have the technology that you have now to do something like that. So how did you get that raw energy? I mean, it's the same thing with Peter Frampton Comes Alive, right? Peter Frampton. I listened to Peter Frampton And what's the album that I always go back to? Frampton Comes Alive, because you can't listen to these songs on the studio version. It's not the same song, and it's the same thing. I could have turned around and picked everything from Live Evil, because that album sounds, for that era, sounds raw and heavy and really. And again, all live albums, I could be, maybe I'm wrong with this, but all live albums is going to have some studio work in there. It's not going to be straight live. You want live, go in there with go back like we all did back in the day with a little tape recorder, if you remember, with the little micro fucking things, and try to record an album. I go to shows now with the iPhone, and I just like what was it, when we would text them back and forth. I went to go see Michael Jackson's play. Let me tell you something, phenomenal. Go see it. Take your wife, take your kids. It's fantastic. It is unbelievable. I videoed one spot when I went live when he was doing Billie Jean. The sound quality that comes off the fucking phone. I have old cassettes somewhere buried in the back of my basement of tape trading days. The quality sounds like shit. It sounds terrible. That was the other way that you were able to get music from these bands. But live albums brought out the power, the raw energy from those bands. And what was the name? Wait a minute, hold on a second. It was the same thing with Ozzy. I love Speak of the Devil because yes, it's not Tony Iommi, it's not Black Sabbath, but these songs, listening to Black Sabbath with Ozzy, with that power and that raw power, and it goes the same thing. When I listen to Blizzard of Oz or Diary of a Madman, I, believe it or not, I go back to that live album that they put out with Randy Rhoads.
Tribute.
The tribute is fantastic because listening to those songs with him, it kind of brings out that different raw sound that when you listen to on the studio albums, I mean, when Jakey Lee got into Ozzy, I kind of started hearing that live guitar sound with Jake, and maybe that wasn't that back in the 70s or his Quiet Riot years and stuff. He just took Ozzy and just made it a new level. I mean, yeah, is he an iconic singer? Yes. Is he a top influential singer? In my mind, in my opinion, I always said no. He wasn't the Robert Plant or the David Lee Roth or the I'd say Paul Stanley. I mean, but Paul Stanley never really showed his true vocals until the 80s, what he can really do. And, I mean, his vocals were great back in the 70s, but his true vocals were back in the 80s. And then Aerosmith, Steven Tyler was another big one. I mean, Rob Halford. I never really thought of Ozzy as Ozzy was part of, when you think of Ozzy, you think of Black Sabbath, you think of War Pigs, you think of Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Paranoid, and all those type of stuff. But don't get me wrong, there were songs that he sang that his vocals were just amazing, where I actually may have compared him to Robert Plant and somebody almost threw a shoe at me, but no, but you don't have to be that. You don't have to have that kind of talent to have talent. Perfect example, Tommy Snyder. No talent whatsoever. No kidding.
Oh, he's not even here to protect himself, dude.
No, but you follow what I'm saying is that
yeah,
Tommy, Tommy's influences, right, from the playground hours. Look, he's a big Sabbath fan, loyal Sabbath fan, and an Ozzy fan. So how can I not think that Ozzy was not a big part of his progression in wanting to become a singer? He's got a little bit of a deeper voice, so he doesn't have that high apparatic that he can pull off. He does it when he did the falsetto and tried to pull that off. Paul Stanley was the same way, falsetto. We're not looking for a virtuoso singer. You got to have a singer that fits the music, and Ozzy's voice fits the music. He fit it for Sabbath perfectly, and he did it for his own solo career. But it's almost like listening to Black Sabbath on steroids, because Randy Rhoads was this iconic guitar player that nobody knew about unless you followed the underground scene, which How did you do it back in the 70s? It was all tape trading. So people would follow, you know, this guy in California. Hey, check out this band Quiet Riot. Listen to this guitar player. He, you know, how do you think Sharon found out about it? You go down and you go see a local act playing. I don't know how, I mean, I know Quiet Riot from, I don't know, Metal Health. I mean, I didn't know them from their I don't remember if they put out any albums with Randy Rhoads. I think, was there a Quiet Riot 1?
Yeah, and 2, but you would have to live in Japan to get them.
So basically, it was a band that was trying to make it, couldn't get it, so they get a Japanese record deal, right? And look what we missed before we got to Ozzy. You know what I'm saying? So now they took this underground guy out of nowhere and gave this guy, what was that movie? Rockstar?
Yeah.
You gave an underground guy, a nobody, a shot at the title. Rocky. You gave him a shot at the title, and let me tell you something. I'll be honest with you. I don't think he would have gone past those 2 albums. Yeah. He would have been too good for them. That he would have went out on his own. I think he would have went out on his own after that and did a solo career because he was that good.
Well, he's still around. He's still recording out. I forget what group, but he's still around. That guy, Ripper Owens.
Who?
The guy.
Randy Rhoads. I'm talking about. I'm talking about Randy Rhoads. So I'm saying, I'm saying Randy Rhoads. I would probably think that after those 2 albums, he might have eventually would have went on his own and did something different because he was the type of musician that wanted to play. Who was our guitar teacher? Kenny Lee, right? Kenny Lee, another Brooklyn guy that taught me, taught Steve. I'm not sure if he taught Brendan, but I know he worked with me and Steve. You know, he wanted to go out and do something different. You know what I'm saying? And you know, Ozzy's going to want to grow, but Ozzy's going to stay where his comfort zone is. You know, and when we were talking about the Ozzy albums and stuff like that, Bark at the Moon, killer album, and he wrote some great stuff with Jake. Right? I also said during our text things, right? I'm not a huge Zach fan because I guess when No Rest for the Wicked came out, right, I really liked what his style brought to Ozzy. But then it became, everything started to sound the same. No More Tears, I thought, in my mind, like my own personal opinion, was probably the last decent solo album he did on the Zach, to me, in the Zach era, because it was all the same crap. He did the same. I thought it was kind of similar. His tone never changed because that is what Zach is known for, that heavy gurgral sound and those artificial harmonics, and which Jake kind of started that. And on Bark at the Moon and The Ultimate Sin, and I thought The Ultimate Sin was such a great album and a very well written commercial good hard rock album. I thought Ultimate Sin was an awesome freaking album, especially coming off of Bark at the Moon. But you know what? They shot themselves in the foot by bringing Metallica on tour. Thank you that you did, because you couldn't top these kids that were coming in here doing something new and different. So he had to do something new and different to make something a little bit heavier. And you know, he started bringing it. What did he play with? He had on Bark at the Moon. Was that Rudy Sar? Who was playing bass for him at the time? Oh no, Rudy Sarza was with them on wasn't Rudy Sarza was with them during the Randy Rhoads era, right? They both came from Quiet Riot. Talking about ripping apart a band. No, but Rudy ended up going back to Quiet Riot, and they put out Metal Health, which I thought was a great album. But it wasn't. It was they were good, but you know, I took them or left them. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they had like the you know, from that iconic sound. I always thought maybe Twisted Sister over Queensryche, even though it's like kind of two different style bands, and you had Black and Blue, and what was that other one? Well, Ron Keel from Keel. You know, that was another band that supposedly Gene Simmons is trying to take credit for. Well, if it wasn't for me, there'd be no Van Halen. Trust me, somebody would have found them, Gene. Sorry, buddy. All right. You did not create that. All right. You know where it started from, so stop it. So anyway. All right. So what do we got here? All right. So so we said Sign of the Cross is number 3.
For Bacardi.
And that was Bacardi, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And then what's your number 3?
My number 3, Computer God.
Oh, no, oh, okay. You picked Computer God. Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe because I'm just writing my own. All right. And I picked In for the Kill, right? That's what I said. Okay, In for the Kill. All right. So what's his number? What's Bacardi's number 4?
Oh, number 4, Mob Rules.
Didn't you pick that one already? He picked that one after Trash.
Yeah, well, you said number 4. Yeah. Oh, you want number 2?
Yeah, one is number 2. I'm sorry, number 2. I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll start with Bacardi. Bacardi's number 2 is a song whose title has only one letter in it.
Oh, I.
Yep.
That's a great song too, and I was going to pick it, but I figured someone was going to pick that one. That's why I try to be a little bit more obscure with that. Again, that is just a killer friggin' song.
It actually has even like in the chorus, it actually has like a bit of a background vocal as well. And Black Sabbath never does that. It never does background vocal.
But see, that's what I'm saying is that now Black Sabbath takes things to another level and you learn something new. Oh shit, Black Sabbath never done that before. But that's freaking great.
There's so much good stuff on Dehumanizer.
There is, but I only picked one from that album because I was trying to mix it up a little bit. So let's see, Ernie, what's your number 2?
My number 2, I'm gonna go to the album Heaven and Hell and the song Children of the Sea.
I hate you again. Damn it.
Oh, you can't possibly have Children of the Sea, really?
I wanted something obscure. I wanted to pick something. All right, Heaven and Hell. What's the song? What's the first song that you would have picked?
Oh, well, I mean, Heaven and Hell is the song that everybody loves.
That's what I'm saying. So I wanted to do something a little bit more of a deep cut. So I was going through because I started putting in Heaven and Hell. And what do you call it? And I said, you know what? I wanted something a little bit more obscure. Because everybody's like, oh yeah, you picked that one. Everybody knows that one. It's like picking Holy Diver by Dio.
No, you don't know. Hey, I did the same thing as you. It seems like.
Yeah.
No,
well, no, you want to, look, I would love to do a top 5 Metallica songs, and I would pick, everybody would think, everybody's going to pick Enter Sandman, Master of Puppets, and no, go for the deep cuts because there's some really good stuff out there that people haven't heard of, and it's the same thing with Black Sabbath. So if you just listen to Black Sabbath because of Ozzy Osbourne, you are missing out on a lot of good music. So
that's why we did this podcast, for the people.
All right, so I'm going to pick this one for my number 2. All right. Falling Off the Edge of the World.
Uh-oh. I think you've just killed my number 1 and Bacardi's number 1.
I'll tell you why I picked this one. From listening to it now, not listening to it back when it first came out. Okay. What I had to put some notes into it. Listen to the opening riff of that song, right? So I picked why people turn around, like we said before, Metallica fans hate Load. That song is a heavier version of Bleeding Me. Play it faster, play it heavier. It's Sabbath. So again, there was a similarity to the riff. And me being a big Metallica fan, I had to pick this song because Metallica, I believe, stole that riff from Black Sabbath. Because Metallica is known to plagiarize on a lot of shit when it comes to their riffs. So did Led Zeppelin too, by the way. But and their biggest song of all time was plagiarized. Stairway to Heaven.
Not to mention the whole first album, probably.
Yeah, well, wasn't half of that album friggin' covers?
Yeah.
And that's actually one of my favorite Led Zeppelin albums because of it was raw. I love the sound, the production. I bought it on, I bought the remastered vinyl, the 180 gram, and it just sounds, let me tell you something. Those 180 gram vinyls sound better than the CDs. And digital, you really don't get. Yeah, to me, digital is compressed. They tell you it's full high def. Bullshit. You know where it's high def? Because everybody's playing their shit through their freaking home theater systems, and that's the only way you can hear it properly. It's bullshit. Pure stereo is where you want to go. Okay, you don't want no EQ. If you gotta buy an equalizer for your stereo, then you have a shit stereo. Okay, because it kills the pure sound of the music. So yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to fuck you guys with this one, but I had to pick it because, again, listen to anybody that hates Metallica Load, listen to that album and you'll turn around and have a different understanding. Take away their makeup and their short hair and looking like a bunch of freaking, half of God knows what, listen to it for the music. Don't worry about what you expect from them and what you want them to look like, the changing of their logo, somebody freaking jerking off to an album cover, whatever. Who cares?
Yep.
Listen to it for the music. And that's why I picked, this was actually my number one. However, since everybody was going into this Mob Rules thing, and I was another one of my mentions, I wanted to pick this one. So that is going to be my number two. So what does Bacardi have for number one? Is it falling off, or did you get him to pick another one?
No, we're not. He doesn't even know I'm doing this. That I'm reading off his chart, his list. So I can't change it. His number one. Well, let's go over his five again. Like
so
like Mr. Cassata would.
Okay, so let's see. I have, what did I put down? I was writing them down too. So his number 5 was Trashed. His number 4 was Mob Rules. His number 3 was Sign of the Southern Cross. Number 2 was I, and his number 1 is
Falling Off the Edge of the World.
I still think, I think that is probably the best song off that album. Hands down.
You're about to find out. I think it's the best song, not
Ozzy era.
Yeah, that there is.
Well, then you know what? Then that can actually be. Then you can actually go into. Then we can probably say, because that's the only one that we all pretty much came up with as a favorite or a top 5, and probably say that this is probably the best song Black Sabbath has ever collaborated without Ozzy Osbourne.
Yep.
So go through your number 2. I didn't write yours down, so I'll let you.
All right. My number 5 was Keep It Warm.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure what it's about, but
No,
anyway.
it's great
No, I'm being sarcastic. I know it's inappropriate. Number 4, Follow the Tears, which would have been a great beginning song on that album.
Yeah.
Because it's the first Dio with Sabbath album in 15 years. And the chorus is with Follow the Tears. If you're wondering where I've been all these years, it would have been Follow the Tears. Would have been a great intro, because where was he the last 15 years?
No, they got a point there, man.
Number 3, Computer God, the first song off of Dehumanizer.
That's the one you killed me on.
Number 2, Children of the Sea. Nothing to do with tuna fish.
That was another one. That would have been another one we would have had the same of.
And number 1,
yep,
the official song for Flat Earthers, Falling Off the Edge of the World.
All right. So that's your number 1, and then I'll do again. I mean, like I said, I still think that's probably one of the best songs that I think that might have. Like you said, any song they've written together post Ozzy, I would have to say that would probably be the best one. Again, that would have been my number 1 too, but I figured let me go back, because you guys were going too much into the Mob Rules, and I didn't want to have a duplicate, so I figured I'd ruin it on you. I might as well. What the hell? I know it's not my number 1. Again, these weren't done in any particular order. So my number 5 I picked was number 5 was Zero the Hero. just a freaking killer freaking song. I know it's commercialized, but it's a great song. Number 4, Neon Nights. Number 3, In for the Kill. Number 2, Falling Off the Edge of the World. And my number 1, even though it's really not my number 1, but I had to make it as a number 1 as this one, believe it or not, Turn to Stone off of 7 Star.
Huh. Wasn't ready for that one.
Well, again, like I said, I wanted to pick something that, people would turn around, like I said, if you don't really listen to those albums, and if you are familiarized with them, you're going to pick out the ones that people traditionally know, or the one that's most commercial. And I didn't want to, I wanted to do something that was a little bit different. A lot of people tried, when you first listen to an album, to any band that you're trying to get into, that first track has got to be the track. And if it's not, then you understand why. Then people will, then you got to set the stage of what you're going to be listening to. And it was almost like when you listen, like I said, when we were talking about Ozzy, when I was talking about No More Tears. What's the opening track? Mr. Tinker Train, right? All right, you start off with a little bit of a little weird sound effects, sound like you're in a carnival and this and that, and then all of a sudden, boom, you know what I'm saying? So, it has like that drive sound. No, actually, I picked the wrong song. I was singing Desire. It was like and stuff, and it's just a driving beat. So now you kind of get an understanding of where the album is going to go after that. And when you looked at what's the opening track on what do you call it, right? Born Again, right? Isn't it? It's Crashed. It kind of puts an inside of where the album is going to go. You know what I'm saying? So, and the only reason why I picked the most commercial song off that one, because I think, outside of probably Falling Off the Edge of the World, Zero the Hero, or probably maybe Digital Bitch may be my favorite all-time non-Ozzy songs. But yeah, like I said, I wanted to try and touch base on, I didn't want to just do DL, because that, a lot of people, that's, to me, is too easy. I wanted to go back to some of those albums that we've never really listened to in a long time. Dehumanizer is a fantastic heavy metal album. If you haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to it, whether you do, I don't know, on Amazon Music, Spotify, buy the album if you can still find it. It's something, I think it's a fantastic album. The 7 Star album, after having our conversation this morning, I went back and I just went through the album, because I haven't listened to it in a long time. And there were a lot of great music. There was a lot of great music in there. And yeah, I mean, Mob Rules, again, it's like, all right, new band, you know what I'm saying? It's like Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning. It's like you're going from like the first Black Sabbath, like if you got to pick your favorite Black Sabbath album of all time, believe it or not, Black Sabbath won. I mean, the first album, I thought there was magic on the album. It was just something you've never heard before. They progressed and they started writing some different type of songs, added a little more speed, changed their sound a little bit, as times go on, between like, what the hell, Sabotage. What a killer album. That's probably another one of my top albums. It's like, yeah, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, everybody's got that, everybody likes that already. I want to hear something a little bit more, and Sabotage would have been, I could have picked that as a top 5 for Black Sabbath Ozzy era. But we could try doing the Ozzy era, but it can't be staple songs, and we'll come up with, you can come up with songs that you can't include. It can't include War Pigs, you can't do Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and what's the oh God, so many, Paranoid or something like that. I mean, I think probably
the whole Paranoid album.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, Black Sabbath, the first Black Sabbath album, probably my favorite Black Sabbath song of all time is probably the song Black Sabbath. That is just a great, it's slow. It can be, to people, it can be boring, but the way let me tell you something. If it wasn't for that song, there would never be Typo Negative.
No, I hear that. Yeah.
The slow doom sound. It was just, and then it gets a little quicker. Freaking geezer on the freaking bass. He used to play like close to the neck and everything like that with his Fender jazz bass. Oh man, it's just freaking killer.
Man, if I had to choose my number one, my number two, and number three Black Sabbath songs, they would all be from Sabotage.
Sabotage, I think, is probably, I mean, when I got into Black Sabbath, let's see, again, late comer. I mean, whatever I heard on the radio, I mean, even the classic rock stations were playing kind of like in the mid to late 70s, like Paranoid and oh shit, Symptom. No, the Symptoms in the Universe was kind of more of an obscure. They were kind of getting into a little speed on there and that kind of stuff. But everybody knew Paranoid. Paranoid was such a freaking iconic song. But and the raw guitar sound that Iomie had, especially with the finger injury that he had, from the where was he working, in the mill or something like that, where he popped off his fingertip and stuff like that. And I think, was it a couple of fingers, or I know he had the fingertips on him, and that's what gave that Tony Iomie sound with the buzz. And very, very deep sounding, very baritone. And that's where Tommy gets a lot of his, Tommy's a baritone. He's got that deeper voice. And it's, it's hard to be like trying to be an alto or something to that effect. But there's just so much great musicianship there. Where the music's like the music show overall amounts of like virtuosity? No, because that's not what music's about. Music is about like, how does it make you feel? How do you grow to it? You know what I'm saying? Like Joey, I find Joe with his main style of playing and stuff, that his influences that I see that he has really gravitate towards more of the stuff he kind of grew up with, or maybe the 80s, the stuff that he listens to. Like he loves freaking Stryper. I would not pick Stryper as an influential band to me. Are they great musicians? Freaking absolutely. Do they write great music? Absolutely they do. Is Sweet a great drummer and a great singer? Freaking absolutely. Are they one of my top bands of all time? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But again, you would think I would think someone like Joe. Now Joe is a big, Joe's a big Kiss fan, and there's your sound. And a lot of the classic bands, he doesn't really like them. And it's okay. It's like Sabbath sucks. They don't suck. They just don't write music that really makes you feel like you want to, you know what I mean? You were never into that kind of music. You were more of a commercial. You grew up just like we all were with 80s radio, with freaking Video Killed the Radio Star and fucking Michael Jackson and Prince and 80s freestyle disco. Let's be honest here. We're all from Brooklyn. That's what it was all about. You know what I'm saying? And and we were the outcasts, wanted to listen to something that was different, and fucking, what was the other bands that we had back in the 80s, that came out? That he's a Richard Marx he loves, he's very much into that kind of, but I would think someone that where he gets his style from. We know where he gets his style from, but you would think that he would have listened to some of these other bands, just to try to. He just doesn't have a mind for it. He does not. I didn't have a mind for it. I take that back, and didn't mean to make it sound terrible, but it just doesn't. If it doesn't grab him, it's not good. He's not open-minded there.
He's being honest with himself, though.
They suck.
That makes him a better character when it comes to these podcasts.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because it's actually kind of funny, because you guys did a top 5. We did the top 5 albums, right? And I picked albums that I grew up with, and things that kind of made me want to play. What made me want to be what I am. Music is different from a perspective if you're just a music lover and you just enjoy listening to music. What gets you going? What crinkles your cream? What makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up? You know what I'm saying? So it kind of sucks in a way sometimes being a musician, because when you're a musician, you're kind of looking for something where you can learn from. And I think, there are a lot of bands that are, a lot of people are like, well, I like, like people like people today, like, oh, I think Nirvana is great. See, people liking Nirvana is me saying, like Joey's saying, Black Sabbath sucks. I think they suck. I think they brought nothing to music. That's just my own personal opinion. I don't think, I mean, how do you have bands like Van Halen and all these George Lynch and all these virtuosos, and then you get some guy that looks like he just got out of bed wearing a freaking flannel, right? Plays a guitar that doesn't look like he knows what the frick he's doing, and made a fortune on it. It made a fortune on it. But I respect Nirvana, but I think they stink. I think they're terrible. But do I respect them as musicians? Absolutely, I do. I always respect musicians because, and there might be something that you do that you may learn from them and say, I don't want to tell you this, but I kind of got the idea from Nirvana's Bleach album, and stuff like that. There's so, I mean, 90s from a person from people like us brought up in the 80s, we hated the 90s because we felt it destroyed our career. It did, because we only knew what we knew at the time. We didn't know how to write grunge songs. If I remember correctly, we were in the studio. I wasn't sure if you were there, Ern. We played together for the first time, and probably, let's see, Joey left when Playground broke up, he went to Exposed. I guess maybe when he went to a band called, I guess it might have been Exposed. I think Dogfish, wasn't that the Exposed members, if I remember correctly? Was that right? This is before, and it was before Valentine Smith. We went in the studio, and Steve, I may have it somewhere. We went into a studio off of McDonald Avenue in Brooklyn. I think I was already living in Staten Island, maybe already, or maybe not, but I might have still been in Brooklyn. But anyway, we went in there just to go in and jam, and we wrote a tune. I don't remember if Steve was tuned down to D on it, or it was just this really drone riff that was extremely heavy, something that you wouldn't expect from Playground. See, that's what I'm saying. Playground was always known to be a fun band, and that's what Playground should continue to do if it decided to play again.
Little whore?
Maybe that, okay, yeah, maybe something to that effect. And the song was really, the music I liked, but it wasn't Playground. If you want to do this, I don't have a problem doing it, but let's just shit can the Playground and move on to something new. Because not that anybody would really give a crap, because nobody really knew who we were except for, from the area that we're from, and all the friends and everything like that. I mean, we made a name for ourselves, but that's almost like when Warrant started getting heavier and Skid Row was getting heavier, trying to be relevant in the industry. I mean, sometimes, it wasn't Tommy's style. Tommy is, he's got that, he's very musical. He's very, not what's the word I'm looking for? He's very rhythmic with his vocal style. And this was kind of like, do I believe in a musician should get out of their comfort zone and do something different? Absolutely. But this wasn't, I felt Tommy, when we were playing the tune, he was trying to take what he's done what he's done in the past and try to make it a different style. And I was like, and look what ended up happening. We never played again. We never played together again after that. And then everybody moved on, who's doing what. And no, actually, no shit. No, this had to have been like in the late 90s or maybe the early 2000s. No, because I didn't have my hair anymore. Because I remembered, I think I might have cut my hair at the time. I don't think I cut my hair off in 1995 when I was playing with my band Powerhouse out here, and we were like this close to getting a record contract, but the marketing team came and says, we can't sign you guys because we have no market for this music. So you guys are great. We want to sign you, but we can't. So we ended up doing something different. And I think that might have been because I remember there was a time that we just got together out of nowhere because I kind of moved on, right? I moved to Staten Island. I got married. I moved to Staten Island. Joey was still technically in the city at the time. But you guys were all still hanging out together and stuff like that. I was kind of gone out of the scene because I was in another scene out there. So I was around that instead of getting back. And that's what one of the things that I hated. I wanted to do about on the playground, the reunion thing that we did. I kind of missed that I wasn't around for a lot of the stuff of the growing of like Joey. Joey wasn't exposed. I kind of lost touch with him for a little while. We didn't have cell phones. We weren't texting, you know what I'm saying? It was all, so I missed out on him playing with Exposed. I missed out on Dogfish. He did send me like demos and stuff like that. I did get demos from him. Valentine Smith was different. Music was pretty cool. Just didn't see Joey I didn't see Joey in that band. I didn't, the style that he plays and the way he plays, I didn't feel that was a good fit for him, just from a friendship perspective, because he's a rock and roll guy, man. And this guy likes to play, you know what I'm saying? And I felt he's just, look, I know you want to make it in the business, but dude, really? It was weird. It was really weird. And I love weird music. I listen to Oasis, if you remember that, that band I always thought was different. I just hate that they try to compare themselves to the Beatles. That just throws me the fuck off. But no, but you think about it, there's so much. There was so much that I missed. I mean, Tommy moved. I mean, I knew Tommy was going to Pennsylvania. I missed him getting married. I missed the kids. So I was not a part of any of that, Same thing with like Steve. Steve got married, had kids, doing his thing. I missed all that because everybody moves on and does something different. So I was kind of great to see I started reaching out to Joey again because he's been, with the internet and trying to push ZO2 and the Z-Rock and all that other stuff. I kind of got back into it again, and it kind of brings back some of the old days, man. And I kind of miss it, and doing some of these top fives with them is great. I would love just to get on a YouTube just to freaking hang out, have a couple of drinks and just talk. You want to record it? Fine. I don't give a shit. Let's just freaking have some fun and do this a little more often because I mean, I know, you got Joey in Jersey, you got Tommy in Pennsylvania, you got Brendan in fucking somewhere in Virginia, and you're in, I don't know, where are you now? You still in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
All right. And then you got you got Steve in Queens and stuff, I'm in Staten Island. I mean, we can all get together. I mean, like I said, if he wants to, I said it over the winter. We haven't done anything yet. I know Joey's busy doing, he's doing his, whatever his book or his top five. He's on tour with, playing with Eric Martin. But I did say, hey, look, you want to make something fun? You want to make this playground thing iconic? Put us on the Jericho Cruise and let's play on the
Oh, genius. Definitely.
Why not? You know what it is? Joey did a lot of, if it wasn't for, even with his interviews, and Joey used to talk a lot about his back days, how he became what he was. Yeah, people know Joey for ZO2. People know Joey for Z-Rock, and the Comet, but they never knew about the playground things. And if it wasn't for Joe, we wouldn't even be here talking again, doing this and kind of maybe bringing back something. Look, are we looking to do something out of this? No. Hey, look, if it would happen, why not? I would have some fun with it. But I'm looking at it just to get together with everybody and play again. It'd be fun because everybody's different. And I'm actually curious what we would sound like. We did that reunion at one time in Staten Island. Were you there? Yeah, you were there. You were there when we played in the studio. We played in the studio for 4 hours. It was you and DePrisco was there.
I might not have been there actually.
Oh no, maybe you weren't there. Yeah, DePrisco was there, and there was somebody else that was there. The funny thing is, it was great playing, right? But a lot of the fire that we had back in the day, we kind of lost it a little bit, because the funny thing is that we all grew up and we're all doing something different. Steve started doing this acoustic thing, the kind of the children's music and the sing along type thing, which some of the stuff that he's got is freaking fantastic, really fantastic. And I love everything that he's that I've seen on YouTube and on Facebook and stuff like that. But he lost the Could Have Been You drive, you know what I mean? And the songs were so slow, and I'm like, guys, I know we're getting older, but Jesus Christ. I mean, Steve, back in the studio when we played in Rockaway, we were always competing with each other of how loud we were or how low we were. And I had to turn down. I had to turn down because I was so, and it was just me, Steve, and me, Steve, Joey, and Tommy. And we start playing the first song, and it was so freaking slow. And I was like, I said to Steve, and look, we haven't played with each other in like 20 something years. And I'm like, Steve, did you forget to turn the distortion on? What happened? He started playing his guitar high and stuff. And I'm like, what happened to everybody? Where's the rock and roll, And then you got Tommy coming in. Tommy still sounded great. Tommy still had, he still had his chops. Joey never lost anything because Joey has been never stopped since Playground. He's been going nonstop ever since. I didn't play for a long time. So I had to go back and, when they were talking about doing like, all right, let's pick these songs. I said, Joe, the easiest songs for me to pick right now and learn them and try to get my chops back, take the 5 songs from the Lamar show and let's just play those 5 and see how we do. If we can get through these 5, then we'll start picking the other more obscure songs we had. Like, was it Heaven in Your Eyes? We had Shadows. What was the other one that we played? It was a little bit more, it was like a little bit more, a little bit more of a progressive. There was some change.
Childhood's End?
What was it?
Childhood's End?
Childhood's End. There was a lot of different time signature changes in that song. That was probably like one of our harder songs. And I just wanted to go through the ones that had the basic 4, 5, 6 chords. Let me just get those down. Let me get the chops back. Let me kind of, what I was doing with those is that because I was not a bass player when I was playing these songs originally, I was playing bass like a guitar, Now that I have a little bit more of a rhythm standpoint after playing for the last, 20 something years in various bands and playing, along, with, YouTube or something like that, I started to have more of a rhythm section. And I started rewriting those bass lines, where I think this is the way that bass should have been back when you had that kid. What was the kid that replaced me? Tommy, the short guy?
Tommy Carter, maybe.
Tommy Carter, right? So yeah. Tommy Carter was a finger player. I was a pick player. So when I used to listen, because a lot of the songs that are on the CD that was given to me, hey, Brian, I created a compilation of all our Playground songs. I can tell on some of those songs, this wasn't me. This was Tommy playing. So, because I know my style and I know his style. And he was very Steve Harrodish. He took my running quick lines on the bass and did it with the fingers and stuff like that. And kid was a great bass player. I never turned around and said, fuckers playing in my band. No. It's a shame. It's a shame that Playground did not continue with Tommy, because I thought he brought something to the band that was different. What I was going back to is, like, when I look at it today, we kind of had a chemistry, all of us, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of hard to replace any member in this band. I couldn't play with Tommy and Steve without Joey. I could not play with or Brendan. And I apologize if Brendan's watching this and I'm taking him out of it. No, Brendan moved on. We've all lost contact with him for many years. So if we were going to do this, it was always going to be the four of us. And when I first joined Playground, it was the four of us. So that's how I looked at it. Hey, look, if we can get it back and Brendan comes and does this, oh, I'm fucking for it in a heartbeat. There's nothing I would want more than just having the original band do it. If Brendan can't do it, I wouldn't mind doing it with the four of us. But again, I can't play with Playground without all of us. That's like playing, come on, can you play these fucking songs without Tommy singing them? I mean, I couldn't do that. No, you know what I'm saying? Even if you're playing a song that Brendan might have been the key writer and Brendan can't be there, but Steve was a part of that writing. So I don't have a problem playing those songs in his honor, in Brendan's honor, if he couldn't be there. You know what I'm saying? So we all grew up, and I think it would be fucking awesome to do it. Again, you got to get people out of their comfort zone. I made a suggestion over the winter to get us together if we can. I know Tommy does not, but Tommy's always out here. Doesn't he work in the city?
Yeah.
If we can try to figure out a way, I would try to work it out, because for Joey can come in. I could play Brooklyn, Staten Island. I could do it at the studio in Staten Island. It may be a little bit of a pain in the ass for Steve, because Steve's got to come in from Queens. I think he's somewhere in Rockaway, so that's a pain in the balls. But you know what? We do a weekend. We do a couple of weekends. Let's run. I would love to go through the 5 songs again. I would say a weekend. Do it now in the winter before the summer kicks in, because once the spring and summer kicks in, everybody's involved with their shit with their families. I get back into my boating season, and I'm not really available to really do it, unless if you wanted to put like you want to do a show or something like that, or, then that's something different. But for like rehearsals and stuff, get the songs, let's get all the songs together. We got the whole winter to do it. I just don't know what everybody's schedule is. And let's just fucking do it, man. And just play and have fun. Because there's not, I would love to go out and, do like a summer show and stuff like that. Like I said, if we never play a show, I don't really care. I wouldn't mind just going to the studio, just playing again, and having a couple of friends come to the studio while we rent it for 4 hours, get one of the biggest rooms, and people come in and bring some beers in and relive some of the excitement that, that we did back in the day. Because you know what? You can't top that. You can't, we're all in our 50s, except for Joey. I don't know. Is Joey did Joey make 30 yet?
Should we do honorable mentions before we forget?
Oh shit, yeah. Now that I went on that freaking Playground tangent, but that doesn't matter. But anyway, it gives something Joey to watch, and then he can freaking edit out his other shit.
I absolutely love the Jericho Cruise idea.
Well, that's what I said to him. I said, you know what? You make Playground such a focal point in a lot of your, his Kiss Nation days and that kind of stuff. And Playground has been a major focal point and, a big part of his career. If it wasn't for Playground, who knows if he would have been where he is now? You know what I'm saying? Playground was part of his progression into making it where he is today and taking it to another level. And that's what he did. He tried to do it with Playground. It didn't work. However, it's a learning curve and you move on. And that's what he did. He tried to do it with Exposed. He tried to do it with Dogfish. We all tried. And then he does the Kiss Nation thing, which is a fucking beautiful thing because he's a huge Kiss fan. And the guy's making freaking money playing songs he loves to play. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful life we have. And then that turned into ZO2, and then he ends up goes on tour with Kiss. This lucky fuck.
It's magic.
This lucky fuck.
That was magic.
No, it was fucking magic. And you know what? I could not have hoped it happened to it couldn't have happened to a better person. He deserved it. He worked it. I'm sucking his dick right now. I don't care. I'm happy. I'm so happy with his accomplishments because he earned it. He deserves everything that he has. Between the book, and the TV show, which I really wish that show would have continued because that show was funny as freaking hell. And because it's pure. Look, anybody that has not watched Z-Rock, watch it because the way he acts in it, maybe some of it is staged, but that is Joey to a T. That exactly calling people idiots, knuckleheads, give me a break and that kind of stuff. That is pure Joey at his finest, and that's him in his real life. There's nothing staged there. What you see is him. So it's fucking great.
You know how Kiss opened for Blue Oyster Cult, and then the very next thing was the other way around? You
Yeah.
think the same thing would have happened with ZO2 and Kiss?
It's a real shame that I don't know what happened to the story. I mean, he never really told me what exactly had transpired with ZO2. Sometimes you go into overload, and sometimes you just need a break from each other, and that's how I think it was perceived to me. It's like, look, we just needed to take a step back. Joey wanted to do a couple of things on his own that maybe he couldn't have done while he was with ZO2, and that, that takes a lot of balls, because I would be in the band, and I purposely was learning some of those songs, because I would love just to jam with him, even in from Playground, and start playing some of the bass riffs from Dave, from Dave, and stuff like that. But you know what? That now it's a touchy point, and what happened with Dave and stuff like that, and it sucks. It sucks that happened, and talk about it's like a freak accident. It wasn't like it happened with ZO2. It was something else that he was doing. Look what else he was doing, isn't he? He's also involved in the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I mean, come on. I mean, dun, 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 dun. I grew up with that freaking album. You know what I'm saying? And this guy is playing with it. God bless him. I mean, I couldn't wish. I mean, he likes to break my balls, threaten me never to put me on the show again. Fuck him. I don't care. I understand his personality, and I get where he's going. I love what he's doing.
And now look, you're on the show, and you're on the show, and he's not now.
No. What's actually impressive about him, even the rest of their band, ZO2, they were humble. I never really sensed the ego. I've never, and I've seen them once. I think I've seen them once perform, and I think it might have been Arlene's Grocery.
Oh, sure.
Or maybe it was one time in Long Island they played. Joe said, "I'm going to be here. Come and hang." Well, now they're going to be doing. Now they're doing this show. Where is it? March 7th.
Something like that. The Cutting Room.
Yeah. Which room is it again?
The Cutting Room.
The Cutting Room, right? So I reached out to Joe. I said, Joe, I want to come to this, even if it's, I know it's a school night, I got to go to work the next day and that kind of stuff. But they said that they're going to go on at 8:00. I mean, I like to see the jam, and stuff like, but I at least want to come down and, and see him play. I didn't get an opportunity to see him that much when they were playing consistently in the city. So I felt like I missed out on it, but I want to get an opportunity to see him now and, at least pay tribute, to David, because the kid was taken too soon. He was a dynamite musician, an awesome bass player, fantastic singer, because the guy could sing. He was like the full package, when it came to like a musician. That's what I loved about that band, just straightforward rock and roll, and it was so great. And it's a shame that, hey, maybe they'll get together again and maybe record an album with Mark Mendoza. I don't know what he's doing. Is Twisted Sister still playing? I don't even know.
I don't think so. All right, honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions.
I got two. All my honorable mentions have been mentioned, except for two. Lonely is the Word.
Okay.
On the Heaven and Hell album.
Okay.
And Bible Black from the Devil You Know album, which has a great, and we haven't even used this term yet for Sabbath, has a great music video, Bible Black.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
The best Black Sabbath video I've ever seen is from Bible Black.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you there. I only had two honorable mentions. I didn't want to, I wanted to hear what you had to say, so I can make sure that I didn't want to have the same ones. I didn't want to have any duplicates, but we did talk about them. Both of these are from Born Again, and I have Trashed and Digital Bitch.
Great stuff.
Yeah. Again, you can you can take these top five. I think where I like where this was going with it is that the top five makes it that much difficult. That's why I said when you want to do Ozzy, let's do Ozzy. You can't do Randy Rhoads. It's too easy.
Yeah, no,
Everybody's gonna
you're
pick
right about
Randy
that.
Rhoads.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, those two albums are like greatest hits. You know what I'm saying? So you take something like this. I mean, you do. I still think Mob Rules as a whole, hands down, probably one. I would say from a band from a record perspective, that's probably the best non-Ozzy album. I'd say that one. I would pick that one over Heaven and Hell.
I would go the other way, but
You would think Heaven and Hell over Mob Rules? Okay, all right.
Yeah, they're both superb.
I don't think there's a wrong answer for those. So then if I had to pick, since I already picked my Dio, right, then I would pick obviously Born Again, because I still think it's an underrated album. I think everybody that knows Zero the Hero, because that's kind of the popular one. However, the rest of the album, it's a little obscure, but it's got some real good metal on it. And then I went with Hughes. So I mean, I wanted to have something, have a little. So, and then I would go with the Dehumanizer is just
Good stuff.
it's just good stuff. But anyway, what time is it? All right, look, you've probably been running about hours. I got to head out, but this is awesome. Hopefully, this thing's saved. We can get this thing over to get him over to the man and let him see if he wants to sit through this. If not,
For the bosses.
then we can have it. We can have it for ourselves. But this was fun. But again, like I said, I love to do this type of situation again with the band and just have some fun, have some conversation. Right, it's been awesome. All right, it probably wasn't as funny because usually, Joey's here and Joey's here goofing on everybody and making it the show that it is. But this is a good filling thing. But let's see if he wants to put it out there. If not, it's for us. Talk to you guys soon, man.
Go listen to the devil you know.
Yes. All right.